For 22 years, I had a front row seat to a revolution. My name is Monty Milnick, and I was the tour manager for the Ramones. I saw it all. And to really get them, you have to go back with me to the beginning. So picture this, it's 1974, and we're in this dingy, grimy club in downtown Manhattan called CBGB. The music world had absolutely no idea what was about to hit it.
And Legs McNeil, who co-founded Punk magazine, he just hit the nail on the head. That is exactly what it was like. Just this raw, violent reaction against all that bloated rock that was dominating the 70s. I mean, the endless guitar solos, the super complicated arrangements. The Ramones were the antidote to all of that. They were just a pure force of nature.
But before they were icons, right? Before the leather jackets and the logo became famous, you got to remember, they were just four kids. Four kids from a middle-class neighborhood in Forest Hills, Queens. John Cummings, Thomas Erdely, Douglas Colvin, and Jeff Hyman. They were friends, they were misfits, and man, they were bored.
It was actually D.D., Douglas Colvin, who came up with the name. He'd heard this story that Paul McCartney used to check into hotels as Paul Ramone to stay anonymous. D.D. just liked how it sounded, so he convinced the others to adopt it, and, just like that, they weren't a band anymore. They were a gang, a dysfunctional family. They were the Ramones.
It definitely took a minute to get the lineup right. Dee tried singing lead, but he couldn't play bass at the same time. Then Joey tried playing drums, but he couldn't sing at the same time. I helped them get some rehearsal time at performance studios where I worked, and their manager, Tommy Erdely, he kept showing the auditioning drummers how the song should go. And, eventually we all kind of looked at each other and realized he was the best drummer for the job. And with that, the classic lineup was born, and they went on to create a sound that would change absolutely everything.
So they took that raw energy from the stage at CBGB, and in 1976, they went into the studio to make their very first record. Nobody really knew what to expect, but they knew exactly what they wanted to do. They were going to strip rock and roll down to its very core.
And they did it on a shoestring budget. I mean, look at that. $6,400. That is it. In an era of these massive, expensive studio productions, they made one of the most important albums in rock history for less than what you'd pay for a used car back then. It's just unbelievable.
Now, the album wasn't a commercial smash hit, not even close. It only got to number 111 on the Billboard chart. But the people who mattered, the critics like Robert Christgau, they got it. They immediately understood its power, its intensity, and its importance.
And this really gets to the heart of why they were so revolutionary. See, mainstream rock at the time was all about indulgence. The Ramones, they were all about discipline. No solos, simple chords. Every single song under 2 minutes. It was this aggressive, direct reaction to everything they were bored with, just stripping music down to its bare, exhilarating essentials. But I'll tell you what, the real explosion, that happened when we took them to England. It was July 4th, 1976, America's 200th birthday of all days, and they played the Roundhouse in London. I saw guys in the audience who would go on to form the Clash and the Sex Pistols. You could just see it on their faces. They saw what was possible, and it lit the fuse for the entire UK punk scene. I'm telling you, British music was never the same after that night.
And believe me, what came next was one of the most relentless tours in music history. For the next 2 decades, they basically lived in a van. I should know, I was driving a lot of the time. The road was their home, period.
I mean, just look at that number. 2,263 shows. It speaks to an incredible work ethic, for sure. But that constant, suffocating closeness, it was a total pressure cooker, and it fueled all the conflicts that would come to define them.
The lineup was never totally stable. Tommy was the first to go back in '78. He was just tired of the road. So Marky came in, then he was out, then Richie came in, then Richie quit, and we even had Clem Burke from Blondie for 2 disastrous gigs as Elvis Ramone. Dee finally left in '89. The only 2 constants, the north and south poles of the band, were always Joey and Johnny.
And offstage, those 2 constants were at war. I mean, complete opposites. Johnny was a staunch conservative who ran the band with military precision. Joey was this liberal free spirit who struggled with OCD. And then Johnny stole Joey's girlfriend, Linda. Joey poured all that heartbreak into one of our most famous songs. They barely spoke for years, creating this professional unit that was personally and just profoundly fractured.
So they finally called it quits in 1996 after one last show at Lollapalooza. But their story, their influence, that was far from over. In fact, you could say it was just getting started.
And this right here, this gets to the central paradox of the Ramones. They were never huge commercial stars. Rockaway Beach only hit number 66. Their highest charting album ever was 44. But their cultural rank? Rolling Stone puts them at number 26 of the greatest artists of all time. See, you just can't measure their importance in record sales.
No, it's measured in influence. Just look at this list, and this is just a fraction of the bands they inspired. Their DNA is in countless bands across punk, metal, alternative rock, you name it. Green Day, Metallica, The Strokes, they all started by listening to the Ramones. The Ramones drew the blueprint for all of them.
Tragically, the story has a very, very sad ending. After they finally stopped touring, the original 4 members were gone in just over a decade. Joey died from lymphoma in 2001, Dee Dee from an overdose in 2002, Johnny from cancer in 2004, and finally Tommy, also from cancer, in 2014. The brothers from Queens were all gone.
But not before the world finally caught up. In the end, the very institutions they had rebelled against had to acknowledge their monumental impact. A Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, the recognition they always deserved, it finally came.
Which really brings us to the ultimate question about the Ramones, right? If you only look at the charts, you might think they failed. But they changed the world. So how? Well, maybe true success isn't about gold records or sold-out arenas. Maybe it's about how many kids you inspire to pick up a guitar and scream 1, 2, 3, 4.